G'day guys, thought we'd just go over some products here from Garmin. These are the units that I've been using for quite a long time now out on the hunts, and I've got here the Garmin 650. That's the original one that I've had for about 5 years now, and the new edition is the rino750. So I'll go over the units themselves, and then I'll touch on the pros and cons a little bit, and also the comparison between the two units. You may still be able to get the 650, and if you can't, there's a lot of advantages of going with the new unit at the moment as well. So if you're not familiar with Garmin Rhinos, they're basically a GPS and a UHF radio all in one unit. So you've got in both units, the new and the old. The radio part hasn't changed. It's a full-blown 5-watt 80-channel UHF radio. You've got your CTSS, which is like your private channel as well. There's a heap of features. I won't go too much into the radio features. It's pretty stock standard with most radios out. The IPX ratings on both of them, they're fully submersible for half an hour, so they're I think that's IPX7 from memory, but I've tested on both. These have both been dropped in the water, and they are totally waterproof. Garmin was kind in that the battery packs were all the same, so whether you've got the old one or the new one, all they did was change the colour. The new ones are black, the old ones were grey, but they're exactly the same. So I've changed them, swapped them, they all work, it's no problem. And the accessory rail's the same, so if you're using clips or mounts or brackets or anything like that, that's all the same as well, so you haven't lost out there. And the big question we get a lot is, are they intercompatible? Does the 750 and the 650 talk to each other? Yes, they do, and they sync up with each other. So they, again, Garmin were good enough to keep us all talking to each other between the two series of units, which is pretty handy. So yeah, the main thing with the Rhino is that you're saving on having the two components, because as well as the radio, you've got the GPS that's built into it. The biggest advantage with having the GPS and the radio all in one is battery power. So when you're out backpacking, instead of having to deal with two battery banks, if you like, you've just got one. And the batteries in these, even in cold environments, have been phenomenal. My old uni den, I used to get about 4 hours, and we used to have to clock on the hour to try and conserve battery power in sub-zero, but we're getting a genuine 14 hours out of these batteries at full-time use on all the time, GPS tracking the whole bit. So the batteries are very, very good. If you luck out and you go on extended trips, they also make the cradle. So this alkaline cradle, you put 4 AA batteries in this, and you can see it's a little bit bulkier in profile. But that in mind, you will sacrifice a bit of power. If you go the alkaline, you'll drop from the 5-watt down to the 2-watt. Most of the time 2 watts fine anyway. I find it a bit clearer and I operate on 2 watts, but yeah, keep that in mind. If you want to go alkaline, you'll drop down a little bit in power. Now the biggest advantage with Rhinos, if you're not familiar with Rhinos, is when you talk to each other, you actually update on each other's maps. So if I'm positioned here and I've got my buddy on the next ridge over there, and I speak, he instantly can see where I am, and I can see where he is. If I hear a shot go off and a quick look on radio, I'll touch base and say, hey mate, where are you? As soon as he talks to me, I know exactly what direction he is in. That's a big advantage in hunting. It's also a much safer way to hunt with your buddy. If you're in a foggy environment or terrain where you don't know, sometimes that terrain can make each other circle around, where you can keep heads up and see where you're at. If you're doing a bit of a line hunt, you know if that person's kind of creeping out in front of the other guns and whatnot. So from a safety point of view, knowing where each other are, knowing where your hunting buddies are is a big advantage. And in populated areas, when other guys have got rhinos, we've been able to see where they are as well. So there's lots of advantages of knowing where your mate is, exactly where your mate is at any one time. And you can use that to your advantage a lot as well on the hunt. sometimes you're creeping up and you'll end up on top of each other. So if you're trying to put a bit of distance between you, you can maintain that by having a simple look at your radio. If you don't want to disturb your buddy by talking to him to check where he is, you can just go through and hit pole location, and you'll be able to instantly update on your map and see where your mate is. And you can sync them up with a lot of units. We've had over 20 units all talking to each other, and you can see each other all simultaneously. So that's a handy little feature as well. I won't go too much into. There's a lot in these units. I'm not going to go into all of the features in this. Just how a few of the features that I find advantageous when hunting. For instance, if you find a point of interest, let's say I come along and I find a nice wallow and my hunting buddy's just in the next system, I can mark that as a point and hit wallow, and then I can wirelessly send that mark to my mate, so he'll get that up on his screen and he hits accept and it's saved as a waypoint on his mark. If I drop my backpack and then I need him to mark it on his so he knows where it is as well, I can say mark that waypoint and send it to him. If we want to make a rendezvous point somewhere else for lunch, we'll just mark that, send it to him, you'll get that spot, and we can say we're going to meet back there. So on the fly, you mark as you go, kind of leaving breadcrumbs and on both units or in the units in all of your party. So let's say, for instance, I'm on a face and I've got some buddies on the other face, and while I'm glassing over there, I spot a deer below them. I could just jump on the radio and say, hey guys, 100 meters below you there's a deer, but what you can actually do is use the sight and go feature on this. So I'll point the radio at the deer, hit sight and go, hit mark bearing, it'll mark the direction. It also knows where I am because it's got a GPS in this unit. I'll use my rangefinder and range that deer, and that's the third part of the information that this needs to calculate. Now within about 30 foot, if I send that waypoint to the boys, they'll have that spot marked. Now that's a really good thing. If you've shot a deer and you've done that beforehand or just after, when you leave your spot and traverse and go over there, you know exactly where you were and you know exactly where it was when you took the shot. So for finding the trail or finding the blood trail, I've found we've often crossed the face and we're dead set all agreeing that we're in the right spot, but the GPS when we marked it says nah, you've got to be another 50 meters across. Fair enough, we go over there and there's the piece of cut fur on the ground and the running tracks from where the deer took off. So it's been invaluable for getting onto that trail on the other side. So there's lots of little things in there as hunters that we can use. Sun up, sun down, there's lots of other information inside these units. So I'll do a little run through of that on the screen so you can actually see what I'm talking about, and just the main differences between these two units as well. Just a close-up of the 750 and the 650 beside each other there. There's a little bit of glare that the 650 you can see will pick up more so. The backlighting on the 750 is definitely superior. I've got both of these units turned with the backlighting up as far as they go, but you can see in the daylight here it's quite a glary day. The 750 is definitely picking up a bit better screen there. So the differences between the 650 and the 750 are very similar sizes overall. Both got the dual antennas, both use the same batteries. You can see the surface of the glass is bigger on this one, but the usable part of the screen is marginal. It's about the same size usable screen. The button configuration is the same. You've got your push to talk here and your send here on the other side. You've got the power on off. On the new one they've put the volume up and down externally here, which is nice. The speakers are both down the bottom here, and the notable thing that's different is actually on the back. Under the cover here you've got the headphone jack and the charging port. On the old one, headphone jack and charging point. but it was proprietary, so you had to have the Garmin brand charger port that matched this one. This one they're just using a multi-plug, which most things do, and it's USB, so that's a big advantage. This one was a full-blown 12 volt, you had to give it 12 volts to charge. This one you can run on 5 volts. So charging on the USB cord gives you options, battery banks, you know, off your vehicle and things like that, without having to buy the proprietary charger. So that's a big difference in the back of these units. The other side was the connection for the computer on this one. Don't make the mistake of using the new charger or a USB lead to charge from that. You will ruin the unit, as I found out. On this side, they've sealed it off. There's nothing in there anymore, because now with the multi-plug, it does both. So you've just got the one plug, no computer lead in here. You're just using the USB lug to go straight into your computer for backups. So that's the back. Okay, so this is a typical view of the map that you'd use as you're walking along in the bush. So it's pretty straightforward. You can zoom right in. With the map card in, depending if you've got the light version or the full version. The full version of the Garmin Topo map will go down to 5 meter increments on your isobars, whereas the light version will have 40 meter increments. So this is the light version here. You can see here, I've walked through here and it is quite steep, and they're 40 meter increments. If that was the full version, you'd see a little bit more detail in there. So that's your typical kind of scenario here. You're zooming in, zooming out, looking for Australian. This one's showing a bit of private land on there, which is nice. You can see the boundary there. And I'll just go through a few of the other little features here. So if you go back to the main menu, you can see here, if I tap radio, I can select my channel up and down to whatever channel I want, and your coded channels over here. Name of the radio. Now, mapping cards on both units are the same, and they are interchangeable. So to look at a mapping card, just make sure your unit is off, and they are under here. So remove the battery, and it's just like any phone really, or some of the older phones. You've just got a tiny little micro SD card there that lives in behind. So basically just a matter of putting it in, locking it down, and it's as simple as that. Very easy to install and uninstall or swap. Variety of maps. I've got the Australian New Zealand one installed here, but they're worldwide. You can get these for just about anywhere in the world for your trip. So let's say you're going to Alaska for a hunt over there, you can buy the appropriate map and insert it, and this unit will work fine over there for all your navigating use. So yeah, very versatile like that. Back to the main menu here. If we hit map, we're just going to go into the map of exactly where we are now. Again, scroll in, scroll out for more detail. Over to contacts. That's basically all the contacts that people that you've spoken to or saved in your radio. Where to? It's going to bring up a list of recent finds, waypoints, things like that. So if I want to go somewhere, I'll just hit, yeah, okay, take me here. It'll pull it up on the map. So yep, go, off you go. Pretty straightforward. Mark waypoint. So with mark waypoint, that's going to give you the location of exactly where you are right now in point of time. So if you're just taking your shot and you want to mark that, you can just go hit mark waypoint. It'll give you the most accurate reading of your current location. And underneath this, there is heaps and heaps and heaps of features and different things that you can utilize in here. Now, it can be as simple as just using the radio and the GPS, or you can, once you learn it, you can really utilize a lot of these other features in there. I still carry a backup map. You never know if you're going to run out of battery, or you forget to charge it, or you might perhaps leave it on overnight. So I highly recommend always bringing a paper map with these kind of things anyway. But yeah, they're a very robust unit. You'll get a lot of battery life out of them, and they can really enhance your time out there in the bush. So the feature we were talking about before, where if you see a point of interest, or say perhaps a deer on an opposite face and you want to send it to your buddies, it's sight and go. And with this you will just use your radio to lock the direction and hit lock direction when you've got your bearing. You want to project a waypoint, and here it's going to ask you the distance projection in what terms. So my rangefinder is in meters, so there I will just put, it could be 500 meters, and you can hit save, call it what you want to call it, and then if you want to share that with somebody, you just go into your menu here, share wirelessly. I want to send by UHF a recent find, send whatever one you want, and hit send, and all radios on your channel will get that information. The other difference is the screen res. So this screen in the 750, although only marginally larger, it is a lot crisper, it's a lot sharper, the definition in the map is a lot better. The vibrancy, the colours and whatnot is much nicer as well. And the processor, so because it's a touchscreen, when you're panning around or pulling up a coordinates, if you hit this and then you're moving around on here, if you're zooming in and out, you'll find that it's instant. With the 650, there's a slight lag on it, so the processor in the 750 is a little bit better, and you'll notice that it'll process the information a lot quicker in terms of retrieving and panning and moving around on your maps. So in all, you've got 5-volt charging, a faster processor, a nicer screen that's more vivid. If you were using bird's eye, so bird's eye is like GPS or a bit like Google Earth, so it's satellite imagery that gets placed in line over your map. If you're using bird's eye and you like using bird's eye, that is usable on this. You put it on this, and because of the screen res, it just doesn't cut it. It's not worth it having it on the 650 in my opinion. So yeah, if that's something you're looking for, it's a big advantage with having the higher res screen on this one. But all in all, it's really those three features that set this above the 650. So yeah, if you want to save a few bucks and you can still get a hold of a 650, if you're not too worried about the 5-volt charging things and having a little bit lower res screen, then yeah, save a few bucks, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's tried, tested and proven. That's a robust little unit. I quite like the old 650, and it still comes everywhere as a backup radio for me, so yeah, good little unit.